Look what I got here.
Hey, there you go. I haven't actually seen one of those in physical
Isn't
person.
that funny? My library has 95 requests on this. Let's start with that though. Talk to me a
Yeah.
little bit about how that is and how it feels right now that you've gone through the glass, so to speak. Where are you emotionally?
Yeah, I feel like I'm still going through the glass. Maybe that's the most accurate. Like I think because in the independent world you have such a long I don't know if this is for everybody. I know it's not for everybody. I think part of this is the problem is we grew up in the Midwest and we grew up with just like feeling a responsibility to somebody who gives you cash. So for instance, like our investors give us money, we feel like indebted to these people. I'm like, I will die before I don't pay you back.
Mhm.
In an industry where 8 out of 10 of these lose money. So you're like, it's the odds of it
That's
are
being
really,
generous.
yeah, exactly. So we've just felt like we did the theatrical run. The theatrical run ended up it performed it was better than it wasn't as good as I was hoping for, but it was
Mhm.
better than I expected. And then on to streaming, the first couple weeks of streaming have been really good. And so we're kind of in the throes. I keep telling my wife like, "Hey, I was always like, once we get through the theatrical, I think it's gonna slow down, or once I get to streaming, it's gonna slow down."
For my Grandpa Buck, farming wasn't a job or even a way of life. It was a sacred act.
Easy, easy, easy.
For him, it wasn't the frozen tundra. It was the Garden of Eden.
Does your granddad know where you're headed?
He knows I'll be home later.
I couldn't do farming anymore. I was on my way out for some bigger dreams.
But there's always kind of like we're me and my brother are the marketing people on the movie right
That's
now.
it, huh?
And we have one social media woman that's helping us, and then there's like a media buyer that's basically taking our cash and putting it on Amazon to help sell stuff. So
Yeah. I mean,
we're in the weeds big
yeah.
time on it.
To
And
use a waiter expression, yeah. If you've
yeah,
ever waited tables, you're in the weeds, right?
yeah, exactly. I'm all but putting a cow costume on and handing out stuff outside the NFL draft. Like
Well,
I'm right there.
it's not that far away. Maybe next week. My
Yeah, we'll
friend
be there. Yeah.
did a film called Small Town Wisconsin. I think I told you.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They're
Yep.
not even on DVD though. I
Yeah.
think there was kind of a decision they had to make, whether they go that route. But I could see where you're the sole marketers if you're on DVD now. I mean, who else is going to do it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, but it's good. I mean, uh, I think I'm like just been really grateful for the learning experience of the whole thing.
Yeah,
Had we had somebody buy it at the beginning, it's like I would have learned anything about how distribution works and
right.
film distribution. We've had a crash course in it, and it's been great. I feel like I've been already able to help my friends who are trying to make films be like, "Oh, think about this right now. Like, start raising your marketing budget now as you're making the movie."
Well, the rough part about that is a lot of them won't make it to where you got.
No, I know it. I know it.
And I mean that with love. I just mean,
Yeah,
the business like you do that
yeah,
it's gotten to the point where I had dreams of screenplays and things like that, but I've
yeah,
all but abandoned them because you have
yeah.
to decide how much pain you want to go through.
Whew, it's true. That's it's nice to hear. I love that you have a very sober view of it, which a lot of folks don't. And
Well, not always. I mean, I was in the honeymoon thinking because I had a couple of things come close.
yeah,
It doesn't everybody.
yeah,
And at
yeah,
the end of the day, the money speaks, the money talks, and if you're not willing to part with $10 million, it's not going to happen. And people
yeah,
don't understand that. Well, I've got, a great actor. That doesn't mean anything.
yeah,
It means
yeah,
nothing. And the actor will take the money and they don't, I mean, they care, but they don't really care.
yeah,
Talk to
yeah,
me about your cast. And, you and I both know that casting is critical, if not 90% of your film. Can you
yep.
talk a little bit about that? Did Craig read? Or I'm guessing he didn't, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, he hasn't auditioned since Coach for anything.
Yeah.
So, uh, but yeah, we got it. It was funny. Our casting directors, they took a flyer on us because at that point we had two guys from the Northwoods with just an idea and a little bit of money in the bank. But they took a flyer on us and we said, we want Craig. And they were like, they kind of laughed and they were like, yeah, who else? And they were like,
Mhm.
no, we really want him. And
Mhm.
so they're like, hey, we've been there, we understand where you're at, so we'll pass him the script, but you better get your backup list ready. And it was like the next day he called and or he called them or his agent and they said he wants to talk to you guys and interview you. So he interviewed us basically, and what he was saying is he wanted to see if we were able to. He said the scope, the breadth of the film, it's like this small film, but it holds
Yeah.
like it holds the world in it. And he's like, I just wanted to make sure you guys cinematically could try to execute something like that.
That's really neat. I'm going to watch it tonight with I'm very excited. And but there's so much that goes into that. He's got to watch what he goes into because I'm sure he gets offered a lot of scripts and
Yeah.
an actor like that. But I'm looking at his face, on the cover, and I'm like, mm-hmm. I buy that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you put, put in any beautiful actor, it's not going to sell. And he has that weathered look to
Yeah.
him. How important is that? Obviously, very important because I know somebody that cast somebody in a small film because he looked like the guy. I'm like, I don't care what he looks. I mean, if he looks like the guy, he's got to be the guy. And I'm just blown away by how much he looks like a farmer.
This ain't your land.
Well, when you don't pay your loan, it becomes my land.
What was that about?
Where the hell you been?
Talked to Godie. Apparently she's got some musicians staying up at her cabin up on the big lake.
I'm Jenny.
Jenny, local musician. Godie said you might be stopping by.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's one of the cool when I was doing some digging on Craig, I found out that he had lived off grid for 7 years.
Hmm.
Like I don't know anybody who can live off grid 7 years. Like that is
How old
rugged.
was he when he did that?
He's probably I think he had a it was his first I think it was his first wife and they had a kid.
Wow.
And so it's Northern California, so it's not upper Midwest, which is different, but it's
Right.
still rugged.
Not
And
in the UP.
yeah, it's tough to do that in the U. But I actually know a guy doing that. But but I think when I heard that, and then when I talked with him, I knew he could understand the depth of the character. But for him, he said the hardest part for him in the film is he's like, as an actor, you're always you're bringing a lot of uh, external just energy to things, and he's like, farmers in the Midwest are so reserved. They
Really?
don't say anything. They say, oh, okay, yeah, sure, And so he's like, that's the hardest part of this character and he's like, one of the hardest parts of our collaboration is to try to, you're telling a pretty slow story with a guy who's not saying much for much of the movie. He does say some smart ass things throughout it, I think are really funny, but
But when he does talk, it's something that means something to him.
yeah, it means something to him. And yeah, so I think like one of my favorite scenes is he's trying to sell his tractor to this guy and he's trying to bring it up and they're talking sports and he's like, yeah, well now Pete, and you could tell like Craig, he's trying to find the way into this like vulnerable thing, but he can't do it. So then they end up just talking about sports and he
Yeah.
walks away. And you see the other farmers like looking at him walking away. And it's just this really, I love that interaction felt really real
I
to
think
me.
I
So
asked you this when we spoke before, but it's got to be tough for young directors to deal with anybody, much less a guy who's got a pretty strong portfolio. Did you
yeah,
feel any trepidation, or did you talk to him first and say, "Look, here's where we're at"? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how you approach that. I just don't know. How did you approach it?
Oh man. I remember I think I talked to him maybe 2, 3 times on the phone before he showed up into Wisconsin.
Yeah,
And I think that's the other thing people don't recognize is the pace at which this stuff all ramps. It's like you're moving your family to to like where you're gonna film. You're then like all we have 15, 20 people that are coming in from out of state into the project that are moving in there. And then you're scouting, you're visiting all these farms, and then Craig T. Nelson's coming in and we have like 48 hours with him before we start shooting. It's like there's no like summer camp where we all get a chance to get to know each other. It's like he lands and I
we're
remember being
going.
super, yeah, it's like I think I had 2 rehearsals with him before we started. So and each of those was 3 hours or 2 hours kind of thing. So but I remember the first time I sat down with him in the rehearsal, I said, I've never done one of these since
Mhm.
college.
Mhm.
It's been a long time. And he goes, well, what do you want to do? And
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you think we should do? And he's like, I think you know what we should do. And I was like, Okay.
Okay,
Let's go
thanks.
yeah, it's like, let's go to this scene. And
Thank you.
but it was cool. One of my favorite things about him, and I heard Gene Hackman actually affirm this in an interview that I like just because he passed recently. I was like looking back through it's like an actor's studio interview that he was doing.
Mm,
He said his favorite directors don't actually direct him at all. They just create a safe space for him.
I like that.
And Craig was said the same thing to me. He's like I need you to tell me if I'm getting over the top, but he's like other than that, he's like you have such a great presence as a person. He's like just keep the room safe for us all and give us a chance to experiment and let's do two or three things and then let's move on to the next thing. And
I've heard that a lot about Clint Eastwood, that
really,
he's just like Hackman. He directed him in Unforgiven, obviously,
How
but
much do we owe the bank?
You think I like tearing down the little guy, Buck? You think I like it?
Well, your license plate says a-hole.
I will make a little wager with you. The pack go all the way, I will give you another year interest-free. And if they lose, you sign everything over to me.
Take it.
Oh, we ain't betting folks, Johnny.
I want to take your tape and share it with my manager.
Eastwood's gotten the reputation of saying, "We got it. That's good." He's like only a couple of takes. Yeah, we
yeah,
got it. It drives me nuts when I hear somebody doing 15 to 20 takes. It's like, I think you're giving the audience far too much credit because,
yeah,
it's like, what do they expect us to be doing? Vivisecting it? And I was reading a book recently about the Eagles by Don Felder and how
uh-huh.
Henley and Frey went at it all the time about a note or something. I'm like, get over yourself. I wouldn't know if a note is out of place. The rest is just ego.
Yeah,
So,
no, totally is. Yeah, we see that in our commercial world a lot where like folks who aren't on set a lot will like, clients will pick and pick and pick at this thing, and
mhm,
you're like, yeah, this is the diminishing of return. The spirit of it is
mhm,
gone. Like
mhm.
and now, and so yeah, I think I'm gonna move forward with sort of that philosophy of two, three takes, and then
I mean,
otherwise you,
if you have it or not. You get the backup. And, I'd
yeah,
always thought that if I were a director, I'd go one script and one, see what you got, play
yeah,
with it a bit because I'm a big believer in some of the best stuff comes. And some actors can't handle it. Just as I've interviewed broadcasters who are terrible interviews. Can you believe it? People who do that for a living are crap interviews. And you have to pry it out of them. I'm like, you really make your living on the air? But I'm sure
yeah,
there's some
yeah,
actors that, can add, no, I don't want to say ad lib, but are very uncomfortable off
mm,
script.
yeah,
That would be
yeah.
my guess.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah. Yeah, he seemed good. One of my biggest regrets is we just didn't have the budget for it, but we improv'd a few different scenes in the movie, and I really wish one of my theory, like I wanted to improv every scene after
Really?
it. Really. So we would do the script, and then I would just have our cameras roam around and
Mhm.
just because we don't, it was like, but we were able, just our schedule was so tight. It was, every 5 minutes you're moving on to the next thing.
Were
And
you
so
able to find some gems in that ad libbing or in that free form?
yeah, there's one of my favorite scenes in there is he's out in the field and he just starts kind of like, you're not sure if he's talking to himself or if he's talking to
Mhm.
God or who he's talking to for a little bit. And then he notices the geese up above him and he just like comments how beautiful the geese
Mhm.
are. It's a really lovely
Is that all?
scene.
Was that all Craig?
That was all Craig. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
He
you
just
got to
started.
love that. You just see it,
Yeah.
come out of him. And I'm not going to take much more of your time, but I'm curious
Oh,
about
you're good. Yeah.
where you're at emotionally, where you're at. I mean, I know you have your business of commercials, correct? That's your bread and
Yeah.
butter. How
Yeah.
soon would you embark on something like this again, energy wise and family wise, and knowing all you know now?
Yeah.
The toll it takes on you has got to be huge.
Yeah.
How soon would you run into another project if something came your way that you felt
Mm.
was worthwhile?
Yeah. I think I don't know, somebody said like you don't do it, it's not any easier, but you can do it quicker the next
Yeah,
time. And I think that's probably true.
yeah, right.
Uh, but
Like
I think,
anything else, right?
yeah, but I think I'd be willing some of the responses we've got from it. Um, there's some like stuff with like farmer suicides in there. There's stuff like with the relationship with his granddaughter and a stoic hard dad, like people commenting to us. Some of the joy of the cast being able to shoot in the Northwoods, I
Yeah,
think added an extra, not I think, it added an extra layer of joy to me into the
yeah.
project that given a chance for people who aren't, are accustomed to being around this to having some cool project that from the farmers to some of these church choirs. It's just like that is the human part of that is really special, and I would love to keep replicating specifically up there in the immediate future. I think if we did it, we have a project that it's hard for us to not get really excited about right now. We kind of have to like temper it. Um, but it's like an 1800s lumberjack musical that we want
A
to shoot.
musical?
Yeah.
All I
Not
can
really.
think of is Monty Python when I hear that.
Oh yeah, exactly. Don't think that. It's not the right pitch yet, but it's a more it's not the Newsies kind of musical. It's much more subdued. Um but uh but I get very excited when I think about it, and the dreaming of it starts to come, and even one of the other thoughts I've had is I've developed with Craig even. He's such an awesome guy, and we've had such a cool friendship post the movie.
Really?
And I'd love to do one more film while he's still like wants to do something. And he's into it. He's ready to go. Uh and it's like that's the other part of me that's like, man, we should just turn something quick
As
around while
long
he's
as you got him, I can't believe that I got into Young Sheldon. I can't believe it. I really liked what he did there. And I was
yeah,
talking to a guy named Kelly Call, who was head of CBS Entertainment, and he brought Young Sheldon to the screen. And I was
okay.
talking to him recently. They did that film, the documentary, Just a Bit Outside, that came out recently.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Kelly, I talked to, like I say, a couple weeks ago, and yeah, he was head of CBS Entertainment. And if for a show like that to hold me, it's got something going on. Like right now, I'm really into The Pit, which is amazing
Yeah.
on Max, and that show Adolescence on Netflix. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, my sensibilities. I like
Yes.
gritty. I like it hard, but I watch
Yeah.
Young Sheldon, so I can't figure it out. What growing up, because you're considerably younger than me, what films, and please don't say Citizen Kane, but what
Oh,
were
nice.
some films that changed your life? I mean, I have a handful of films,
Mm,
but you always hear, I don't even
yeah.
think Citizen Kane is great. I thought it was for its time.
Yeah.
But there's so many films now that I
Yeah.
talked to a guy who does a lot of junkets. He said films in the 30s. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
What about you? What are some films that, you can benchmark that were pivotal in your loving of movies?
Yeah, I think the three that come to mind are the first one was A River Runs Through It
Sure, that's with Pitt
with Brad Pitt. Yeah, it's Robert
and Anthony
Redford directed.
Hopkins.
Yeah, and
What did you like about it? The
I
saga?
I liked that uh, at that point I didn't know anything about fly fishing, but
Yeah.
it casted
Pardon the
uh
pun.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It casted uh a vision for a life that I wanted,
Wow, that's
it's like,
interesting.
man, it'd be so fun to go out west and see
Wow,
the mountains
I should see that
and
again.
yeah,
What were the
I love
others? The other two?
the other two, Children of Men.
That was that Javier Bardem, or was that
Uh, no, it's like Clive Owen is the main actor in
Clive
it, and
Owen? Oh, they look.
yeah,
Yeah, I like. I don't remember it though.
yeah, but it to me in terms of like the bigness of the story, like it's a story that holds the whole world in it.
Wow.
And that was the first time that unlocked me where it's like, okay, you can tell a really simple storyline, but you can really tell everything in that. And it's about a guy who's, humanity can't they don't have a baby hasn't been born in like 19 years. And
Whoa.
then this woman, I don't know if she's a prostitute, but something like that, she becomes pregnant. And now this one guy is like trying to get her to this human project to try to save
Oh,
humanity.
so a
But
little. I don't want to say sci-fi, but a little fantastic.
yeah, it's like post-apocalyptic-y, and but
Yeah,
I would highly recommend it.
two interesting choices there.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
what I would have.
those were the first. The last one was Lord of the Rings, which I think
Yeah,
that one sitting in theaters. I was in high school when that was released, or just early college maybe. Um, but going to see that in the movie theaters, the original three, I
yeah,
just I couldn't believe how it would just transport me to this other world, and the desire for adventure. I think that's like
yeah.
something that I what I love about movies. What I love about being alive is adventure, hence being a filmmaker, but being able to give audiences cast a vision for what that could be for them. And
The film is my. It's so funny. Like when I talk to directors, I talk to the director of the film Major League, and what people don't understand is he wrote The Sting, which is one of my favorite films. And then I I like knowing the nuances. I like knowing, just so many of the small things. And I love foreign filmmakers because they're not afraid to
Yeah.
spend time on,
Yeah.
they take the time and they're not concerned with, like, I won't watch any Marvel stuff. It just makes me
Yeah.
feel stupid. But
Yeah.
I recently watched the 4 hour director's cut of Das Boot in
Uh,
subtitles, and I had a great time alone. My family was ready to jump off a building, but I couldn't.
yeah.
It was truly
It was
magical for
special.
me, you know?
Yeah.
And
Oh man.
and I so last question for you is
Yeah.
do you take the same gratification out of your work professionally as you did out of the film, or in other words, how gratifying is your bread and butter work, your commercial?
Uh, yeah, it's funny. I expected the commercials. I expected to hate them after getting a chance because it's
Yeah,
like nobody, and not many people get into filmmaking and be like, I really want to direct commercials. But we all kind of do them to like try to get the dream, and so I
can't wait to
anticipate.
direct commercials.
Yeah, it's like I can't wait to shoot a cheeseburger on a tabletop. So, and so I anticipated loathing the experience more, but it ended up making it easier where I feel like I can like all of a sudden that vocational itch, that vocational desire for like my work to have meaning now is not anymore in just the commercial value. Like the commercial is now I can just blatantly just serve the client. I can actually be like a hospitable director
Yeah,
because I don't, if they want to do 15 takes of it, whatever.
you're paying me.
Yeah, you're paying me. I'm happy to give you my best
You're the
feedback,
boss.
but
I'm not the director.